Growing tensions between Ukraine and Russia as Kyiv strikes Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. The drone attack adding pressure on Russia's oil revenue, critical for funding this war. Russia, meanwhile, hitting back with a deadly missile attack on Kyiv, all coming as peace talks hit a crucial stage. A Ukrainian delegation now in the U.S. for meetings that will include Special Envoy Steve Witkoff before he heads to Moscow to meet Putin this week. Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman served in Moscow as a former CIA station chief, joining us now. And Dan, things are really coming to a head now in Florida with this meeting between Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Witkoff, Jared Kushner, that's going to meet with this Ukrainian delegation headed up by Ukrainian Security Secretary Rustem Umerov. Where do you see this headed?
Well, I think these meetings are really important, not just for the United States and Ukraine to discuss the peace process and the upcoming trip from Special Envoy Witkoff to Russia, but also for the Ukrainians to share battlefield updates, what they're seeing on the ground, and how they see the war going and potential for a future deal in the making. I frankly I'm not that sanguine that we're going to see a lot of positive results. If past is prologue, Russia's going to continue this war. And their strategic objectives, which is to topple the government of Ukraine, those haven't changed much. Putin likes to talk, he likes to negotiate because he feels like he could influence the United States not to pursue further sanctions on Russia and to hold on giving Ukraine military equipment like Tomahawk missiles. But I don't see Russia very interested in negotiating. However, it's still worth pursuing, and good on the Trump administration for trying.
And Dan, it seems that one of the biggest sticking points is this idea that in this deal that Ukraine would cede territory, particularly in the Donbass, particularly Donetsk.
Right. If you listen to General Jack Keane and the Institute for Study of War, and I would encourage all the viewers to read some of the analysis from Institute for Study of War, that would be extremely dangerous for Ukraine. Those are heavily fortified positions in Donetsk. The last thing Ukraine wants to do is give that up and present Putin an opportunity down the road to launch another invasion of Ukraine when Ukraine would be vulnerable. Putin has violated every agreement he's ever signed, going back to the one that his predecessors signed at the Budapest Memorandum, which promised Ukraine's territorial integrity and independence. And so Ukraine needs to be prepared with Europe's backing to deter any future Russian attack. That's critical.
Dan, what impact do you see in all of this playing with the fact that Zelensky's chief of staff, top guy, Andriy Yermak, has been with him for the very beginning. He is a major operator behind the scenes, now resigning, telling the media that he's headed to the front. He's out of the picture now. Do you think that affects things?
Well, I think in the larger sense, in the wake of that corruption scandal around the Ukrainian energy, Energoatom, the conglomerate. Certainly concern, and I'm sure that will be a topic for discussion. But President Zelensky's got a deep bench. He's got Umerov, who will be leading this delegation, with the head of military intelligence, Budanov. They've been there fighting since the onset of this Russian attack and leading Ukraine's forces and their strategy. So I don't think that Ukraine will miss a beat here, and it's an opportunity for President Zelensky to assuage any concerns on the part of the Trump administration. Look, Ukraine is an imperfect ally. They also happen to be the strongest army in Europe, and they have the most sophisticated drone and counter-drone technology. They're the bulwark of Europe's defense. And look, it's worth remembering we enjoy $1 trillion worth of trade with Europe, and the last thing we want is the specter of Russian aggression on Europe. There have been a lot of Russian gray zone hybrid operations in Europe. And the best way to deter that is for Ukraine to either to win or to have a good, solid peace there that protects their territorial integrity.
And Dan, the message from the U.S. side will clearly be that President Trump wants this war to end. Dan Hoffman, thank you for taking time. Great insight, as always.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.